January 6th, the Feast of Epiphany, is one of the 7 major feast days of the Christian Church. Around the world, it's a big holiday, and in some places even bigger than Christmas. The word Epiphany means revelation or manifestation, and so we're given the story of the Magi, a story of how God was manifested in the person of the baby Jesus to some representatives of the Gentile nations. So let's begin this morning by seeing what we know about these mysterious travelers from the East. Who were these Magi? Well, first of all, there's no reason to think there were only 3 of them. 3 gifts are mentioned in the text, so legend has it that each Magi carried one of the gifts, but as treacherous as it would have been to cross the desert, it's more likely that there was a whole caravan of travelers, probably more than just 3 Magi. And even though nativity scenes love to include them at the manger with the shepherds and farm animals, that's also very unlikely. After Herod realizes he's been tricked by the Magi, Scripture tells us that he kills every male child in the area who was 2 years old or younger. So there's every reason to believe that Jesus would have been around 2 years old or so by the time the Magi had arrived on the scene. There is also no reason to think they were kings. Yes, we are all familiar with the song, "We Three Kings of Orient Are." But even though the Magi may have rubbed elbows with royalty, they weren't royalty themselves. These mysterious strangers were first and foremost foreigners. Many films depict them walking into town with the crowds of people, awestruck at the sight of these exotic men and simply stepping out of the way for them so they can make their way to the Christ child. But they were not just some benign and exotic strangers who happened to be in town. They were from the land of the foreign enemy. More than likely, they were from Persia. And the Medes, Persians, and Babylonians didn't have a great relationship history with the people of Israel. In fact, the Old Testament is packed with that history of conquest, oppression, and exile for the people of Judea. But not only were they foreigners from a country in which Israel had been in conflict in the past, they were astrologers, probably followers of a religion called Zoroastrianism. Zoroastrianism is one of the oldest monotheistic religions of the world, founded in Iran approximately 3,500 years ago. Followers of the religion believe in one God who goes by the name of Ahura Mazda, which means wise Lord, and who is compassionate, just, and the creator of the universe. For 1,000 years, Zoroastrianism was one of the most powerful religions in the world. It was the official religion of Persia from 600 BCE to 650 CE. But now it's one of the world's smallest religions, with probably less than 190,000 followers worldwide. So, now you have the lowdown. The exotic visitors who traveled hundreds of miles across the desert to pay homage to the Christ child were foreigners who did not share the religious beliefs of Jewish people. And here's the really important part. God was revealed to them in a way that no one else experienced. And there is no reason to believe that God expected them to change their ways or beliefs in order for that revelation to take place. And so this morning's story is more than just a once upon a time story. It challenges us to see things differently. It reminds us that God is at work in the world, constantly opening up new paths to us, inviting us to dream in bigger and better ways. And if only we will allow ourselves to believe, to dream, and to trust in God's loving kindness toward us, the truth will suddenly appear. It's a story with important implications that are relevant to our day and time. And the first is that history is not a justification for ongoing suspicion and xenophobia. Even though they said they were there to pay homage to a new Jewish king, the Magi would have been seen by most people as enemy spies. Yet upon reaching the place where Jesus is, they do what they say they came to do. They offer him honor and present him royal and sacred gifts. Isn't it so disappointing when people we are suspicious of act with integrity and honesty? It makes it so hard to keep hating them when they don't behave in the way our prejudice has scripted them to play. History is not a justification for suspicion and xenophobia, and neither is where people are from, how they look, or what culture they observe. Other cultures and religions are not second-rate ways of living and believing. And so instead of marginalizing people from other cultures and religions, we should be embracing them as our sisters and brothers and opening ourselves to how God is being revealed to them. It's so ironic, even hypocritical, when we LGBT Christians insist that God's light has been revealed to us regardless of our sexual orientation or sexual identity, but deny that manifestation of love to people of other religions. We can do better, people. We can do better than that. We need to quit trying to box up God to our specifications and instead kneel in awe and wonder with the Magi at how God's light is being manifested to others. Because of the warning of the Magi, Mary, Joseph, and Jesus were able to escape the terror of King Herod. They became refugees in the land of Egypt, and even though tradition has it that the gold, frankincense, and myrrh were given as prophetic symbols of the royalty, the divinity, and the future sacrifice of Jesus Christ, it's just as likely that they made possible the escape of the Holy Family. One religion writer points out what better than gold for buying safe passage out of Jerusalem? What better than medicinal and funeral herbs to be exchanged for food at a market on the way to Egypt, or for housing in Egypt, or for clothing to make them more able to blend in to the surroundings in which for 2 years they will be refugees? My point is that it was foreigners who saved the lives of Mary, Joseph, and Jesus. And the only way they could be saved was to take on refugee status. We either forget or ignore that our very Christian heritage is firmly rooted in the fact that Jesus and his family were foreign refugees. The flight of the Holy Family is a reminder that while we need to be a nation of laws, we should greet immigrant children as Christ's children rather than alien invaders. And we should welcome them with clothes and meals, not placards written with abusive words. Immigrants are also following stars, and are inspired by dreams of survival, a better life for their children, and peaceful communities. The journey of the Magi reminds us that revelation is given to and can come from persons beyond our ethnic and religious boundaries. God is generous with revelation and salvation. That's what grace is all about. And God desires that we, like the Magi, keep our eyes on the heavens, looking for stars to guide us beyond our religious comfort zones, to discover and grow from our encounter with the diverse religious experiences of others. I said at the beginning of today's reflection that this morning's story is more than just a once upon a time story. It's one that is valid for you and me in our here and now time. It's a story that exposes God's intention to welcome everyone to God's banquet table of love. May we be open to that divine intention. May we give thanks for it, and may we reflect it to the rest of the world. Amen.